Hi, kiddos. Welcome to your third lecture in our AP exam review series. So I just wanted to review a few key tricks for doing better and getting more points on your FRQ. So it doesn't matter which direction AP goes this year. You're going to have 3 questions. According to the AP Central website, the 3 questions should be in this order and have these general characteristics. Question number 1 should ask students to design an investigation. Question number 2 will ask you, the student, to analyze environmental problems and propose a solution. You might have to do some modeling or graphing. Question number 3 will ask students to analyze an environmental problem and then propose a solution using calculations. Okay, so in general, we want you to rewrite the question that you're answering, right? So you want to be very clear that this is what I'm answering. It makes it easier for your readers. For example, a consequence of global warming is, okay? So they know exactly what you're answering. Another thing that you're going to want to make sure that you do is that you need to write each point down as its own sentence. So when you read the question, you might take a second to kind of outline some key terms and phrases that you want to get into your answer, but you need to make sure that you make each point its own sentence. I think that it's easier when you put the ABCs next to them, but you can't do it in a outline format, and it can't be incomplete sentences. So you're never allowed to use bullets. And they've always said that they won't read it if it's not written in pen. This year, since it's going to be electronic, it looks like, that's not going to be an issue. So we've already been going over calculations. As you know, dimensional analysis is a big deal. If you're still struggling with dimensional analysis, I've included a link here so that you can check out another tutorial video, because at some point you're going to have to master it. It's going to keep kicking you in the hiney if you don't. Law of 70, once again, just be familiar with that concept. It has a tendency to show up. The LD50 questions show up, and primary productivity or efficiency of transfer between trophic levels show up. So just make sure that you're familiar with those problems. If you need any special help, you just contact me. So earlier this year in one of the FRQs, students were asked to pull just a piece of information out of the reading and copy it down. This is the one time where it is definitely okay to copy. If they're asking you if you can just pull a piece of information out of the reading, go ahead, take it. It's not plagiarism. They know where you're getting the information from, okay? So sometimes it seems too easy, but it isn't. Just copy down that piece of information. Sometimes you'll be asked to create an experiment to test something. So when you're creating an experiment, you want to put down the hypothesis, what it is that you're testing. So trying to see how fertilizer changes the growth of plants. The null hypothesis is that your experimental change is not going to impact the data. So the fertilizer will not impact the growth of the plants. And then remember, you have to state your control group. One group will get no fertilizer. Then you'll try at least 3 experimental groups. I'll have fertilizer 1, fertilizer 2, fertilizer 3. And it doesn't matter if they're 3 different types of fertilizer or if they're different strengths of fertilizer, but try to have 3 experimental groups if you can. And make sure it's only one manipulated variable, okay? The other thing is briefly summarize in 2 sentences-ish your experiment. Don't give tons of detail. Well, first I will pick up 6 pots. Then I will put those 6 pots in the sunlight. Then, no. So I'm going to prepare 4 different groups with the same container, soil, and plants. I'm going to add different concentrations of fertilizer to 3 of the 4 pots. The 4th group of pots will have no fertilizer, as that is my control. Beautiful. I know that was 3 sentences, but I add my control in there. So summarize the procedure as much as possible. You oftentimes can still get all of the points on this. If like you're running tight on time, you can usually get all of the points on this even without including the procedure, okay? And then repeat, repeat, repeat. Don't forget to add your repetitions. We'll have 5 of each variable or each group, and or within each group. And then don't forget to tell your expected results. You can even do like a quick sketch of a graph. You know, as fertilizer increases, growth will increase. You know, you can do it in so many different ways. So just briefly summarize what you think is going to happen. When you're answering the analysis questions, please do me a favor and just do the right thing. If it asks you to calculate, they don't want background history. You don't need to write an essay about how you set up the problem. Just calculate, perform the math, show your work, show your setup, box your answer. Similarly, if you're describing or explaining, you're going to want to provide relevant characteristics. And if you're explaining it, you want to try to pull together relationships or processes or show patterns. And when you identify, you don't need to give a whole lot of background, but a quick definition certainly isn't going to hurt you. If it says justify, then you need to provide evidence to support whatever it is that you're saying. So if you say that the population is going to increase if there are more resources, you can say there's been a lot of experimentation that has indicated that organisms will continue to grow exponentially until they reach their carrying capacity. If you increase the carrying capacity, blah, 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 blah. So you can justify your answer just briefly, okay? Make a claim, it means make an assertion that's based on the evidence of knowledge. Usually when you make a claim, it's good to have a sentence that backs it up. I think that the population will continue to grow because it hasn't reached carrying capacity yet. Okay, so you've made your claim. I think the population is going to continue to grow, and you're now supporting that. Propose a solution. Provide a proposed solution to a problem based on evidence or knowledge. You guys are pretty good about this. Oftentimes you can talk about how the government would solve the situation, or some sort of grassroots movement would solve the situation. And then prove. When you have to prove something, you have to give evidence. It's like justifying. So you just have to give evidence to support your statement. Also remember that if they ask you to discuss, they want you to name whatever it is, and then they want you to elaborate on that. Explain questions will have a chance to earn 2 points. So 1 point for your statement, and then 1 point for the explanation, or 1 point for the reason, 1 point for the explanation. If it's economical versus ecological, know the difference and circle them so that you don't forget. If you have no idea how to answer a question, remember, okay, if they ask you to describe economical effects of something or another, you can always go to tourism, loss in aesthetics, lead to loss in revenues, loss or increase of job opportunities, natural disasters, reducing these can result in less money needed to clean up the destruction, and then supply and demand and prices. So those are always go-tos if you see an economical effect question. If it's what the government can do, they can decrease or increase subsidies, they can decrease or increase taxes, they can give tax incentives, they can have educational campaigns and public service announcements to educate the public, and they can full on just restrict or prohibit use or whatever it is. So there can be legislation passed. If it's about ecological effects, you can talk about pollution. Don't forget about noise pollution from things like geothermal systems or from wind turbines, things that are aesthetically unpleasing, like, once again, wind turbines. Don't forget about habitat loss, invasive species, population growth, pollution, climate change, and overexploitation, the big ones, okay? You should remember HIPCO. And displacement of people, displacement of native species, the loss of biodiversity, eutrophication, so increase in nutrients and how that causes algal blooms, which we all know. And then also don't forget about the increased spread of disease and conditions that favor bacterial and insect growth. So that would be warmer conditions with more moisture, which might be driven by global warming. Okay, kiddos. So this question we're going to go over in class. I just wanted you to have a moment to take a look at it, think about it, maybe make some notes on it, and just come to a class prepared to briefly talk about it. And you do not have to write out the whole essay. If you would like to, we are going to go over how to grade it. By all means, you have fun, but this is not a requirement. I just want you to read through it, and I want you to think about how you might answer it, maybe make some notes. So kiddos, don't forget that you don't have to get all of the points, but I want you to try. Remember those tricks that we've talked about, and remember you've worked really hard this year, so you understand and know the basis of the content. Just do your best, and you don't have to get all the points. You just have to get most of them. Okay, so you're going to totally rock this. I'm really excited to see the results because